Hello and welcome to today's webinar. We are celebrating National Distance Learning Week this week with a series of webinars throughout the week. I'm Erin Maney. I'm the Manager of Communications and Community Engagement for SUNY Online, and it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker to you today. Today's presentation will be given by Catherine Roche from Rockland Community College. Catherine is a professor in the business department, where she has been teaching online for the past 21 years. She serves as a mentor to the business honors students and is the campus coordinator of Collaborative Online International Learning, or COIL. In 2013, she received the SUNY Chancellor's Award for Excellence in Teaching. So I want to welcome you all. We do have the microphones muted during the presentation, but we welcome any questions you may have in the chat and at the Q&A at the end. Thank you. Catherine, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you, Erin, and good morning to everybody. In recognition of National Distance Learning Week, it's my pleasure to share one of my current projects with you. I'm a strong advocate of distant learning, and as Erin said, have been teaching asynchronous online courses since fall of 2000. Through SLN, I began with Lotus Notes, migrated to Angel, currently to Blackboard, and Desire to Learn Brightspace is on the upcoming horizon, I understand. I've also used Moodle for a class that I teach at another SUNY campus. And of course, distance learning is enabled by technology, and so is collaborative online international learning, which is of course a SUNY initiative in case you are not familiar with it. Since 2014, I introduced COIL to Rockland, and I have served as the campus coordinator. And through our grassroots efforts, we've established a dedicated cadre of faculty who are passionate about virtual exchange and who maintain sustainable partnerships semester after semester with co-facilitators around the globe. So today, I'd like to discuss a collaborative project that is in its final stages. My appreciation to the SUNY COIL Center, which has made my collaboration with Colombia possible. I'll tell you the background of this project. Last April, the COIL Center was recruiting COIL faculty to establish partnerships with faculty from institutions in Colombia, South America. As I read the profiles and the project ideas in a partnering bulletin, I discovered that one of them interested me very much. So I contacted the faculty member. We exchanged emails, we scheduled a Zoom meeting, and we discussed her proposed idea in more detail. We brainstormed more ideas, and we agreed that our partnership would be feasible. So we began our work. As you can see, our campuses are displayed on the screen here. And my partner is a faculty member at the Universidad de La Sabana in Colombia. And La Sabana is a Colombian private higher education institution founded in 1979, so it's relatively young. It's located in a municipality in Chía, which is about 7 kilometers north of Bogota, or about 4 miles. My campus is located in Suffern, New York, which is about 29 miles north of New York City. My partner is teaching principles of international business once a week, and some of her students are meeting her face-to-face on campus, and some of them are remote. I am teaching a principles of marketing class that is remote, and it meets twice a week. So we decided that besides the asynchronous work that we would do, we wanted to include a synchronous component in our collaboration. Oops. So time is always an issue when you are trying to do something synchronously. Synchronous components are very enriching. They do promote global team unity, but again, they're not always possible due to differences in time and also academic calendars. So the time difference between Colombia and New York was only 1 hour. So this seemed to be something that we could work with. So we tried to see if we could schedule our classes on the same days and at the same time, accounting for this 1 hour difference. My partner's class met on Wednesday mornings at 8 o'clock. Therefore, when the business department at RCC announced the fall schedule, I was looking to find a principles of marketing class that would be able to collaborate with her. And as it turned out, there was one at 9 a.m. on Monday and Wednesdays. So this meant that we were able to plan our synchronous sessions. And preparation is something that I want to talk a lot about today, because before I can even get into the project, we have to talk about planning as an integral part of the process, and it involves both the faculty and the students. And I had completed COIL professional development courses several years ago because I have had several collaborations, but this was my partner's first collaboration and experience with COIL. We both attended the 3-week required COIL design workshop last June. And the tool that was used in this workshop was Padlet. And we both enjoyed using Padlet. We thought it would be easy and it would organize our content very well. And we envisioned how we could integrate it into our collaboration, which we actually did. So this is the title of our collaboration, the title of the slide, The Influence of Culture and the Macro Environment on Global Marketing Strategy. So after we finished figuring out the logistics, during May and June, we discussed our shared learning outcomes, which again would be achieved through the project tasks that the students would perform. And as mentioned earlier, our classes were in the same discipline, business. So finding common ground to establish our course learning outcomes was somewhat organic. So students would work in teams outside of class with their assigned global teammates. And their activities through the project tasks would address the first learning outcome on this slide, which is develop cross-cultural communication skills and cultural intelligence through virtual teamwork activities. We populated the teams, and then we posted the names on Padlet in our separate classes. And we routinely emphasized and reminded students that the success of the project depended on their collective activities. The second and third outcomes on this slide would be achieved through the student engagement in tasks 2 and 3 of the project, which I'll discuss later on in the presentation. So, even before the collaboration and the student interaction formally began, our students required preparation, and none of them had been involved in an intercultural project in the past. My partner's students had been together since July, so they were already familiar with one another. However, my fall semester began on September 1st. And one of my first tasks, even before the semester began, was to put an icebreaker in Blackboard, because my class is a remote class and we meet in Blackboard Collaborate within Blackboard. So I put an icebreaker in Blackboard, 2 truths and 1 lie. It's a fun icebreaker. And the purpose of it was not only to have a little bit of fun, but for the students to get to know one another and also to be comfortable in participating in a threaded discussion. And this kind of laid the groundwork for them. They first had to become comfortable with each other before we introduced them to their Colombian teammates. My partner and I co-developed a COIL syllabus, and a COIL syllabus is really a syllabus within the actual course syllabus. And this syllabus included all the important information related to the project, such as an introduction to what is this thing called COIL to begin with, why is it important, why are we doing this, what was the name of the project, what's the description of the project, what are the courses that both campuses are using, instructor information, learning outcomes, expectations, technology that will be used, grading practices, etc. So as we expected, the Colombian students are more familiar with the United States than the US students are familiar with Colombia. Therefore, in my class, we needed to do some pre-collaboration activities. So we did explore Colombia in terms of geography, major cities, currency, temperature, weather, language, religion, culture. And we provided students with many different resources, including videos that they could watch. And at my request, one of our wonderful librarians at RCC prepared a LibGuide for me of Colombia. And that included much information, and a lot of it related to business. And as it turned out, one of my colleagues is also collaborating with a different university in Colombia this semester, and some information for her was also included in this LibGuide. So originally, we were going to use MS Teams for the tasks. That's what the students in Colombia are used to. They've been doing it since July. My campus migrated from Google to Microsoft this summer. And we obviously have Microsoft Teams, but nobody has really ventured into it yet. So even though I think it would work very well for collaboration, now is not the right time. I thought that my students would have a very steep learning curve, and that would inhibit the project rather than enhance it. So I told my co-facilitator that I don't think we should use Teams right now. And in fact, why don't we let the students decide what technology they're going to use to communicate with each other, whatever works best for them. And this really serves to empower them and to instill ownership in them and autonomy in the project. So we had our first global team meeting on September 22nd, and we had it in Zoom. You know, originally it would have been in Teams, but we had it in Zoom, and it was a success. This meeting brought all of us together, and it served as a further introduction to the project. So we discussed what is culture. We also took a look at the cultural iceberg, and we told the students that we hoped that they would break this proverbial ice and that they would dig deeper. And the icebreaker in Padlet was already in progress. So we had hoped that today's meeting would serve to motivate any students who had not yet engaged in it. We also had, prior to the meeting, had given both groups of students an assignment to view the video, Danger of a Single Story. And we discussed this video during our session, which was very, very enlightening for everybody. I keep mentioning teamwork because I can't even emphasize enough how important teamwork is. We did put all of the expectations explicitly in our COIL syllabus. And again, when we had the whole group together, we thought that this was an opportune time to reiterate the value of teamwork and the expectations that we had. So as you can see from this slide, and I have taken the names of the students off and just put generic RCC student or La Sabana student, our class rosters were not balanced at all. There were 40 Colombian students, and I had 24 RCC students. So my co-facilitator and I went back and forth deciding, you know, how many teams should we have? How many students we're going to put on a team? And finally, we came up with this arrangement. However, the imbalance made it even more crucial that my students be active team participants because there were only 3 of them per team. And for the most part, they all did comply with what we asked for, I'm happy to say. Also at our meeting, we talked about the challenges that a global team might encounter. And of course, they came up with the answers that we more or less expected in terms of language, access to technology, attitudes towards time, etc. And from that, we talked about how to whoops, sorry. How to combat any of the issues that or challenges that we just talked about that are often prevalent in intercultural communications. So we offered them some tips. And we also, in number 7 here, talked a little bit about communication styles, about the difference between a high context and a low context culture. And of course, Colombia is a high context as opposed to our low context culture. Basically, we say what we mean and we mean what we say. And we also discussed the 21st century workplace skills that students would be developing as a result of this project-based learning that they were engaged in. So now let's get to the project. So this is a timeline that we used. And as you can see, this project has been in development for quite a while. We started back in April and May, establishing our partnership. And as I said before, there was a partnership bulletin. My partner and I talked through emails, Zoom meetings. In June, we had a bit of a head start on the development and the deliverables that the workshop would require. So we continued to collaborate. We also attended the workshop together in June. And we took the summer off. And in late August, we started communicating again. And in September, we started with the first task of our project, which was the icebreaker, and that was in Padlet. Then in October, last month, we worked on the second task of the project, which I'll tell you about in a moment. And we had our students present at synchronous meetings. And now in November, we are wrapping up the project with the third task and then the reflection. So this is an example of the first task, which was our Padlet. Actually, let me go back one slide. This'll be better. Our task 1 was in September, as we said, and we asked the students to upload videos, 60 to 90 seconds, introducing themselves, and also to respond to the other partner videos within their team. And we asked them information that has nothing to do with business, just, again, an icebreaker, just to kind of get to know one another. And interestingly enough, and I'll show you the Padlet, they had much in common. They talked about soccer, they talked about anime, Harry Potter, how they all liked Italian food. They like racing, they like cars, they shared pictures of their pets. Somebody had a birthday, so they were wishing the person happy birthday. So it was really a nice way to, again, break the ice and get them into the project. And now we went on to the second task. And the second task, as you can see on the slide, this is exactly what the instructions that they were given. They were working in their teams and they were examining what we call the pestle factors. These are macro environmental factors that one must consider when introducing a new product. So they needed to look at the 6 pestle factors, and the Colombian students were researching the United States while the US students were researching Colombia. And after they collected all of their information and their research, what we wanted them to do is to agree on a product that could successfully be introduced in both countries. So in order to make things simple for them as much as possible, trying to reduce any barriers that would get in the way, we provided each team with a template like you see here. And what we asked them to do is to, again, I had their names on here. I had to take them off, obviously, but their names would be on the template. And then next to it would be which of the pestle elements did they actually research. And that's what they would talk about when we had our next meeting. So once again, each team got this. They were required to put their cameras and microphones on and to share their findings with us. And the end of the presentation, they needed to tell us why they chose a particular product or service and to briefly explain why. And let me go back 1 minute because this is important. We scheduled one session for this. And as it turned out, we had 6 teams. We only got through 3 of them. They did such extensive research that neither my co-facilitator and I wanted to shut them down and say, oh, time up, that's it. We just let them go. So what happened then is we had to schedule another meeting for the other 3 to present. And they did excellent work. And I'll share with you some of the items that they came up with. One of them came up with starting a restaurant that served healthy food. Another one was a clothing delivery service. Another one, and many of them have to do with coffee. And obviously, that's no surprise, I guess. A coffee subscription service. Then there were 2 others on coffee. One was on coffee delivery by drone. One was on cosmetic and a culture subscription box. And another was on cannabis. So very interesting. And the technology that they used, in my class, my remote class, we use Blackboard. So we use Blackboard Collaborate for our weekly meetings. My colleague used Microsoft Teams for her class. We use Zoom for our meetings, and we use Kahoot in our classrooms to get the pre-cultural activities, to see how much do they know about the countries. And the students used a variety of apps in order to communicate and collaborate. And we provided them with lots of references as well for both task 2 and for the 3rd task, which I'm about to tell you about. So our 3rd task is, and again, this is a scaffolded project. So once they did task 2, now they need to use that information for task 3. So they decided on the products that they will be successful in both countries. And now they're not doing a business plan or a marketing plan, but what they're doing is something called the business model canvas, which is kind of a precursor to a marketing plan. But it's a very simple 1-page Word document. So what they need to do is to fill in the 9 blocks. And the one in the middle is really where they begin. And what is the value proposition? What value are you offering to whatever your target market is? And then the right side of this has to do with, again, the market in terms of who are your customers going to be, what's your target market, how are you going to get in touch with them, what channels are you going to use? And the other side is more about their actual business. And then the bottom is about the expenses and the revenue. So 1-page document, we did give them a template and all they had to do was fill it in. And the idea was that they would then present this at Global Team Meeting 3. And since this is simpler than the previous task, I think that one meeting would do it. However, we did come across a little issue. The issue is that, as you know, our time changed last week. And initially, this project was supposed to end before the time change. But since we had to have an additional meeting for task 2, this pushed everything forward. So our meeting for task 3 is supposed to be tomorrow. But now it's the same time in Colombia as it is here. So now we have a problem. And I cannot ask my students to come to class earlier. And I explained the problem to my partner, and really it's my problem because we're the ones that changed the time. Colombia didn't change. So she's very understanding. And what we're going to do is we're simply going to have our own respective classes tomorrow. And my students will present to me, her students will present to her. We will record the sessions and we'll share it. And that just speaks to the fact that whenever you're doing a collaboration, you have to be flexible and adaptable. Definitely, because you never know. And we, again, since task 3 has been extended, task 4 will be extended. And this is where we will have our students reflect upon the project, which is really a classic element of a COIL collaboration, where you want to find out their reactions to what went on. And in terms of evaluation, something that we talked about early on was, and something that you should do in a COIL collaboration, is that both instructors should be weighing the project the same. Because if one is doing 10% and one is doing 30, then you're not going to get the same kind of input from the students. So we both decided, since this was an involved project with 4 tasks, that it warranted being 30% of their final grade. And we broke it up with, the icebreaker and the reflection being 5% each, with the meat of the project, really tasks 2 and 3, being weighed more. And we are going to give them a certificate of completion when they finish with their reflection. And I think that's about it right now. It's been a wonderful collaboration. I too have learned so much. But if I had a few words of advice, I would say, really be prepared, work with your partner, give and take, and prepare the students adequately, keep on top of them to make sure they're meeting your milestones, and enjoy the experience. And thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Catherine. I always enjoy hearing about the COIL collaborations. I think that they're really a unique opportunity for our students. And from other sessions that we've had, I've heard really good reviews from students who participated. They've gotten so much out of it as well. And
right.
You did mention about that flexibility, that you just have to be adaptable because things will come up. And so that's so important. There's a question in the chat about how students overcame the language barrier. How did you handle that?
Well, there really wasn't any, because the Colombian students can speak English. So there wasn't any barrier at all. And in fact, I've done collaborations also with Morocco, and there's never been a language barrier because, many students can speak, English. It may be a second language, but they do speak it very well. So, so that wasn't a barrier at all.
That's good. Yeah. With regard to the technology, I know that you showed a slide of a bunch of the different technologies that were in use during this course. Were there any barriers or any difficulty with using so many different types, or were those chosen specifically by the students because they were things that they were used to using?
They were chosen by the students. In their teams, they agreed, what would work best for them. So so there weren't any issues with that.
Okay.
In some collaborations, instructors tell them what to use, that we're going to use this particular, Facebook closed group or Padlet or whatever. The only thing that we did tell them was Padlet for the icebreaker, but otherwise it was up to them. And, a lot of them are comfortable with WhatsApp, exchanging phone numbers and, keeping in touch. So,
and I saw Discord on there too. I know a lot of them use that as well. Yeah.
Yes. I know our honor students use Discord for communication. So
Hey, Catherine, thanks a lot
Hi.
for the great presentation.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm also interested in the technologies that the students had selected. I'm wondering, did each of the students in their different teams, did they have differing perspectives, or did they all say, okay, as a group, we choose to use this platform for the whole class, or was each team kind of on their own for picking what worked with their group?
They were pretty much on their own to discuss it within the team as to what would work. What I believe happened is somebody would say, hey, why don't we use WhatsApp? And everybody would say, yeah, that's a good idea. I'm on there. You know, so I believe it worked out that way. You know, somebody must have stepped up as a leader and, you know, provided some direction, I'd say.
Did any of their choices prove challenging? You're familiar with the MTech project, and one thing we're hoping to do in relation to COIL activities is identify, we're working on adding a tag that says this application is not acceptable in this country.
Oh, yeah.
Did you find any that were, they discounted this one because it wasn't going to work? Or anything else that proved to be challenging with the technologies that were chosen?
Nothing with the technology. In some cases, more with the students. You know, somebody saying, I can't get in touch with Joe. You know, I keep asking him for his phone number, and then I need to intercede. But no, nothing with the technology at all. And one of these days, I have to do MTech myself. It's on my list.
You're a graduate of the previous. You were one of the fellows for TOPE, I believe. Back in Rockland.
No, unfortunately not. No.
Oh well, yeah, we definitely want to get you involved.
Someday, yes, I will. It's on my list.
Sounds good.
Things to do.
How many students were you working with total in both areas?
We had 60?
Wow.
See, that's one thing that I've noticed in some of these collaborations. In fact, I have another one going on now with Morocco, and the partner has many more students than I have. And ideally, I don't like that. I would prefer that we were more equal, but, you know, it is what it is, and we have to work with it. You know, and that puts my students in the minority. I don't mean minority in a bad term, but, you know, if there's 3 of them, and one of them doesn't do any work, then the onus is on the other 2, you know, and, you know, that's not the best, but, you know, it is what it is. You know, we work with it and, you know, hope for the best.
Good. You have a group of faculty at Rockland that are doing COIL collaborations?
Yes, we have a group that, as I said in the presentation, very sustainable. We have great relationships with our partners. So it isn't just a one-shot deal, you know, let's do this and then it dissolves semester after semester. And I was part of the Stevens Initiative, the grants back in 2016-17, that was increasing partnerships with the MENA region. So I was lucky to go to training in Cairo, Egypt, and to Lebanon, and collaborate with my partner in Morocco. And we just last week, in fact, started probably our 5th collaboration. And the other faculty also work with the same people, another one in Morocco, one in the Netherlands, one in South Africa. So sustainable partnerships are really great, you know, and I got to go to Morocco, you know, twice, and co-present with my partner. So, and visit his home, and he visited my home. In fact, when he was here in 2017, we had a Thanksgiving dinner here in my home to show him, you know, what we do, one of our holidays, and all the COIL faculty came to it. It was really very, very nice. And I was at his home for dinner when I was in Morocco, pre-pandemic days.
Fabulous. These are great opportunities for our students and the faculty as well.
Yes, it is. It is. many of our students need to broaden their horizons, you know. They kind of live in a bubble, especially these days. So, you know, diversity and inclusion, they need to certainly get on board and be aware of different people and different perspectives and so on. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Those relationships that are built too, that's just really great to hear about.
Yes, it is. It is. So
good. Are there other questions? You can feel free to unmute yourself if you have anything you'd like to ask or comments for Catherine. Okay. Well, I will close this out here. So just to make everyone aware that the session is being recorded, and the slides along with the recording will be updated on our playlist on our registration site. I'll put the link in the chat for the full schedule if anyone wants to have a look at that. We are working on getting a recap of all of the sessions from yesterday up there as well. Our next session begins at 11 a.m. So if you'd like, we're going to leave the Zoom room open. You're welcome to stay here for that session. We would really appreciate feedback as well. So, you know, we use the feedback every year to plan the following, and we host National Distance Learning Week every year. So we'd appreciate some time and your attention on our survey. And we hope to see you at another event this week. So thank you again to Catherine and to all of you for attending.
Thank you, everyone.